Hey guys, it's Irrelevant, and today I'm be covering the whole zombie story. First of all, I'd like to say I did not partake in making any of this story. I've got all of it off of the Call of Duty wiki, and it goes from the first zombies map to the latest one, the Zetsubu no Shima. The links that will be in the description, but first I'd like to say that this is not going to include any of the alternate timelines, such as Mob of the Dead or Shadows of Evil. Also, I'd like to say that the gameplay in the background is irrelevant to the story and what's going on, but other than that, let's get right into this. In the year 1939, the world was threatened by a Second World War after Germany's Chancellor and Supreme Dictator Adolf Hitler rose to power. Dr. Ludwig Maxis formed Group 935 as an international German-led research team and emerged as its head scientist. Maxis sought to use a mysterious new element, which he had named Element 115, to improve the human condition by developing advanced technologies, and enlisted Dr. Edward Richtofen as his senior assistant, rather than his equal partner, much to his chagrin. However, the group's goal immediately detoured due to lack of funding, and Maxis regretfully turned to make a new contract with the Nazi Wunderwaffe program to use Element 115 as a power source for deadly new weaponry to help Maxis hoped that after the war, the generous funds and Germany's ultimate victory would put Group 935 in a better position to help the world. Using a large supply of Element 115 found in meteors, Maxis began a series of tests experimenting 115 being used to power devices capable of teleportation, called MTDs, at the Reese facility in Lower Silesia. While the majority of the tests failed, Richtofen and other Group 935 scientists, Dr. Schuster, conducted a successful test on their own by teleporting a walnut using a small amount of Element 115. Although Edward assumed it was a sign of progress, Maxis criticized the scientists for failing to work on their assigned experiments, which led Richtofen into thinking that Maxis planned to betray the scientists and claim their work as his own. Despite Max's displeasure, Richtofen and Schuster continued their research with the MTD device, and after a month of tests, Richtofen agreed to be teleported himself. But rather than appearing at the test mainframe, he arrived within a catacomb on the moon, where a large triangular device known as the MPD was located. After touching the device, Richtofen began hearing a series of voices in his head, unknowingly gaining schizophrenia from the pyramid, before being teleported away from the strange device. Arriving in an exotic shrine in the Himalayan jungles known as Shangri-La, Richtofen remained there for 3 weeks and learned of the mysterious energy force known as the Vril. Richtofen returned to the Reese facility with full knowledge of the MPD and the Vril, and with Schuster and other Group 935 scientists, spent 2 years at Eagle's Nest, transferring equipment and building a top-secret moon base, Griffin Station, to study the device, which he now knew to be a dimensional gateway to the ether. Placing Schuster and his superior, Dr. Groff, in charge of the facility, Richtofen continued in his charade as Max's senior assistant, whom he planned to eventually kill and enter the ether using the MPD to take control of his energy. As Groff and Schuster toiled with the device, Maxis and Richtofen began a project to create wonder weapons for the Nazi Party. Maxis used the blueprint design created by the Japanese research group Division 9 to create the ray gun, while Richtofen used the element to create the Wonder of DG2, a weapon so deadly even Maxis himself felt uneasy about its mass production. Nonetheless, he promised Richtofen it would be produced, but growing his attachment with his secretary Sophia prevented him from doing so. While other weapons were produced from several Group 935 facilities, such as the quantum enlargement device made by Richtofen and the second-generation ray gun created by Dr. Porter, Maxis focused his attention on the matter transference devices, hoping to manufacture them to the Wehrmacht, granting German forces easily travel in the war. The initial tests failed, with test subjects either being killed or exposed to Element 115, resulting in their deceased cells being reanimated and becoming unresponsive zombies. However, the first successful test was conducted after a dog had been sent through the device and failed to return to the mainframe. While Maxis believed the MTD experiments to be failures, the Reichstag saw the creation of the zombies as another advantage in the war, forcing Maxis to control the zombies. During the unsuccessful attempts to control the zombies, Richtofen travelled to a Siberian Group 935 outpost to experiment with 115 on living test subjects, hoping to procure a serum capable of rendering the human mind responsive to commands from another. Using POWs, Richtofen used Red Army Sergeant Nikolai Belensky, Imperial Army Captain Takeo Masaki, and a Mexican soldier named Pablo Moranes as subjects in these tests. Through the process, their memory were erased and Moranes was killed, forcing Richtofen to request a replacement test subject. After American spy Peter McCain, who was inserted into Group 935 to put all ongoing experiments to his handlers at the Nevada base, was compromised at the 935 facility at Wateno Satorium in Pankow, Berlin, and a Marine recon team was sent to evacuate him. The team, consisting of Corporal Tank Dempsey, the leader of the team, John Banana Smokey, and the fourth Marine, who is unknown, found the site infested with the undead. Their extraction plan quickly failed, leaving Dempsey the only survivor and Richthofen's newest test subject. Peter parachuted into Division 9's Rising Sun facility, where he died trying to land. Another recon team was sent to an airfield in an attempt to rescue the site from the zombies there. Richthofen became suspicious of other OSS operatives in the organization, with Dr. Harvey Yener being one of his suspects. Yener was also present at the Siberian site, developing the scavenger sniper rifle. Nonetheless, Richthofen continued his work with 115, which yielded interesting results with each test subject. Dempsey acquired severe anger management issues, Belansky became functionless without some form of alcohol substance, and Masaki's mind was broken with him only speaking in Japanese proverbs. As this research continued, Dr. Groff and Dr. Schuster developed a wave gun and turned their attention to the MPD. When both scientists returned to the Dar es World War II was at an end, resulting in an Allied victory and the collapse of the Third Reich. With 935 no longer funded and a test site overrun, the future looked grim, but Maxis pressed on to improve the human condition, conducting a sixth test with the MTD, hoping to mass produce it for public use. Maxis and Richthofen used Fluffy, a dog which Maxis gave to present to his daughter Samantha, as the test subject, and to their astonishment successfully teleported her from teleporter ZA and spawned an orb of lightning in its place. As this occurred, Samantha arrived at the lab, questioning her father on Fluffy's disappearance. The dog quickly returned through the lightning, with 115 reanimating her deceased cells and turning into a being known as a hellhound. As Maxis and his daughter attempted to approach the monster, Richthofen proceeded with his plan by locking them in teleporter, believing the dog had killed them. Unbeknownst to Richthofen, Samantha and Maxis both entered the MPD and were teleported to separate locations. Samantha arrived at Griffin Station, where the MPD awaited opened and ready for a human conduit. Terrified from a lack of air, Samantha accidentally ran into the device itself, entering the ether and gaining control of its energy. Dr. Groff immediately contacted Richthofen and warned him of the Maxis father-daughter having survived, and receiving commands to locate Maxis and bring him to the station to finish him off. Using the MPD's ability to teleport matter, Schuster and Groff teleported Maxis to the base, where they were allowed to speak with him with Samantha. After promising he loved her, Maxis asked his daughter to use the ether's power to destroy the Group 935 and anyone daring to continue their dangerous works, which she promised to fulfill. He then proceeded to commit suicide, causing his soul to become conjoined with the computer systems of Griffin Station, while Samantha commanded the horde of zombies located at numerous 935 outposts to slaughter anyone involved with the organization. Richthofen hastily escaped Dar es, now overrun with zombies, with his 3 test subjects. Realizing that Samantha was in control of the ether, he devised an alternate plan to gain ultimate power, using a real generating device and sufficient supply of 115 to bend life force itself, allowing him to switch his soul with Samantha's and enter the ether as an all-powerful being. After arriving at the Rising Sun facility to locate a supply of the element, Richthofen discovered the site to be populated by zombies, forcing him and his allies to fend off the hordes. Due to a possibility of being overwhelmed, the 4 abandoned the site and returned to Dar es, where Richthofen hoped to use an MPD prototype to arrive at Griffin Station in the same fashion as Samantha to possibly enter the ether in another fashion. After the MTD was shot with a Wonderwolf DG-2 charge, it overloaded and ripped through space and time, sending the group into the future to an abandoned theatre in Germany. After disappearing from Dar es, a Russian and American standoff took place, as both forces wanted to salvage the work of Group 935 for the benefit of their own countries, followed by a massacre of the zombie population there. Sometime prior to the character's arrival at the Soviet Cosmodrome, a scientist from Russia, Yuri Savovsky, was transferred from a Project Mercury to work on sending monkeys into space. Much to his dismay, his transfer was caused by his superior, Gersh, who he holds a grudge against after revealing his duty from Project Mercury. As Gersh is working on the Project Mercury, his staff is working on Project Thunder. Yuri notices a teddy bear and mascotcha girls and wonders how a child could be let into the station. The child, Samantha, then slowly drives Yuri insane. Yuri, in his state of insanity, finishes the Gersh device and has Gersh activate it, letting in the zombies and trapping Gersh. Yuri presumably dies. After the events of Kino der Toten, the main characters somehow reach the abandoned Soviet Cosmodrome. The characters then hear Gersh, who tells them that the mechanic must be repaired. He is referring to the Casimir mechanism, which must be repaired by completing different tasks. After all the tasks completed and the mechanism repaired, Gersh is freed, leaving Samantha free to be ridden of the ether. At the same time, John F. Kennedy, Robert in the camera, Fidel Castro, and Richard Nixon are negotiating when zombies break into the Pentagon. There are only 4 still alive in the building, and discover a secret lab under the Pentagon, with many of the technologies that Group 935 were attempting to develop. As they continue fighting, Dempsey and Takeo slowly begin to regain their memory. Takeo is the first to remember and remarks himself that someday, when the group is finished fighting zombies, Richtofen will get what he deserves. Dempsey, on the other hand, is slowly making progress as he remembers that he'd seen before Richtofen had been captured. Takeo notes his shifting memories and believes Dempsey is finally remembering what Richtofen did to him. In modern day 2011, George A. Romero stumbled upon Group 935's research while making a World War II film. He and the cast took a ship out and to the abandoned lab in Siberia, after he had heard the music crew was zombified by the remains of the ship's crew. Only 4 main actors of the crew, Sarah Michelle Gellar, Robert Englund, Danny Trejo, and Michael Rooker, remained alive. After the Casimir mechanism was completed in Ascension, it overloaded the teleporter and sent the original characters to a Group 935 facility in Siberia, where they were trapped behind a locked door. Richtofen then asked the celebrities to help him obtain the Golden Rod, which they did. Richtofen thanks the group by giving them the one-off DG2 to help them fight off the zombies. It is unknown what became of the celebrities after helping the Group 935 escape Shangri-La, though sometime later Romero was interviewed where he recounted the story of how he found the research and how he came to making the film. Shangri-La, a temple that was once a mining facility for Element 115, however, does not live up to its name, as its inhabitants have all been zombified before the group's arrival. Richtofen now states this was the last step to controlling the world before he is teleported there. Prior to the group's arrival at Shangri-La, 2 explorers, Brock and Gary, went on an expedition to prove their theories on Argatha. Brock later figures out that the temple wasn't built by an ancient civilization, but people in the modern era interpreting it. After investigating the temple, the pair accidentally activated the temple's time travel and died in the resulting zombie attack. The group travels back in time and helps the pair survive. When the group finally creates the focusing stone and places it on an altar with Richtofen's name, the 2 explorers are sent back to the moment they discover the temple, indicating that they're stuck in a never-ending loop. Now in possession of both the Golden Rod and the focusing stone, Richtofen believes he can now control the zombies. The group then travels to Area 51 so they can get to the moon via a teleporter to Griffin Station. When the group reaches Area 51, it is already overrun due to Element 115 on the moon. Astronauts and scientists sent there have been zombified before the group's arrival. Meanwhile, a group of CDC radiation scientists and CIA agents investigate the ruins of a former nuclear test site in Nevada when the undead begin to attack. Richtofen then has the group complete the MPD. When the device is complete, it opens up to reveal Samantha Maxis suspended in the air. As it turns out, the device acts like a prison and keeps her cryogenically frozen so she can be used to control the zombies. Richtofen goes to a terminal to power up the Golden Rod and Focusing Stone, which he fuses together. However, he encounters Dr. Maxis inside the terminal, who tries to stop him. Richtofen switches souls with Samantha to gain control of the zombies. Richtofen finally thinks he's gotten everything his way, until Takeo, Dempsey and Nikolai decide to stop him. Dr. Maxis sent in Richtofen's betrayal, prepared a backup plan in case Richtofen got this far. The group then launches 3 missiles located on the moon, one of them which impacts the nuclear testing site, destroying the Earth's ozone layer, in the hopes that it will sever the link between the ether, thereby greatly lessening the damage Richtofen could cause. Unfortunately, the calculations were made in haste, resulting in catastrophic destruction. The missile's launch leaves the Earth a post-apocalyptic crumbling wasteland, littered with undead hordes as civilization begins to collapse. As survivors begin to band together to form small human communities and shelters to protect themselves from the now global undead threat, Maxis realizes the failure of his original plans, due to hasty calculations, and begins contacting survivors to help him with his Plan B, to activate global polarization devices and open a gateway to the ether, where he would overpower Richtofen and use his energy to heal the Earth. Unbeknownst to his followers, Maxis secretly planned to commandeer the Ether's energy for his own use to open the gateway to Argatha, which he would ultimately destroy the Earth and its people. Richtofen, unsatisfied with his limited power to the undead, planned to activate these polarization devices as well, which would grant him further manipulation of both the zombies and the humans, and mend the rift, a direct gateway to Argatha that would eternally damn the soul of Samantha Maxis. Limited to communicate with only those capable of hearing the voices of the ether, Richtofen began his own plight and request for unlimited power. Meanwhile, Martin Johnson emerges as the sole survivor of the events in the nuclear testing site, and meets Abigail Misty Byerton in an abandoned town where they find two more survivors, Russman and Samuel J. Stollinger, who have commandeered a robotic bus that they have used for transport there. The four survivors are contacted by Maxis, reveals the town is the location of a polarization device required for his plan. At the same time, Richtofen can contact Zampsil, who has previously eaten zombie flesh, resulting in him being able to hear Richtofen, instructing him to foil Max's plans by activating the tower to his favour, beginning the race for power between the Germans. The group is teleported by Richtofen to a skyscraper in the crumbled city of Shanghai, China. Maxis regains contact, hoping to gain control to the second tower located there, while Richtofen blackmailed Samuel into helping him acquire the device's power as well, threatening to reveal to his allies his secrets. Every time the group fails to carry out the objective and is killed by the zombie horde, Richtofen would use his power to bring them back, with no memories of having been killed before. Once a second polarization device had been activated by either of the Germans, the group manages to escape the building they were trapped in. Eventually the group makes it out the crumbling city of Shanghai and begins journey to the remains of Europe and Africa to reach the rift, hoping to find answers about the unseen forces commanding them in southern Angola. The group finds a western town buried underneath the rift. Maxis once again contacts his allies, imploring them to activate the last tower in his favour. Meanwhile, Samuel was tasked for the same objective by Richtofen, as it was also the last tower he needed to mend the rift and gain his unlimited power. If the player decides to follow Maxis' Easter eggs in all three maps and polarize the towers in his favour, a portal to the ether will open and allow Maxis to become the controller of the zombies and the dimension's energies. He will then proceed with his plans to open Argatha, revealing himself to be just as evil as Richtofen and announcing that he plans to destroy the world and its surviving inhabitants, and reunited himself with his daughter Samantha after returning to Richtofen to the physical world spawned as a blue-eyed zombie. If the player decides to follow Richtofen's Easter eggs in all three maps and polarize the towers in his favour, the rift will be mended, eternally damning Samantha to Argatha and allowing Richtofen to achieve full manipulation of the ether's energy, with Earth as his personal playground and Max's decease is very existent. Richtofen is now able to leave the ether and will be used as the body of Samuel Stollinger as his physical host. Unbeknownst to both Germans, Samantha had actually travelled to an alternate timeline in 1918. In this timeline, in the midst of World War I, the German research organisation known as Group 935 are tasked with creating powerful new weaponry to ensure victory for the Central Powers. During September of 1917, Dr. Ludwig Maxis and his partner, Dr. Edward Richtofen, lead an archaeological excavation into the trenches in northern France, after Dr. Maxis promises Group 935's leaders at his location of an unknown magnetic new element. The excavation not only discovers this new element, but also uncovers an ancient and mysterious ruin beneath the battlefield. Dr. Maxis classifies the new element as number 115 on the periodic table of elements. The group plans to use element 115 as a power source for new weaponry in the Womble weapon program. At the excavation site, Group 935 installs a series of conversion generators that utilize element 115 to create localized energy fields. To their surprise, the energy fields act like portals and begin to materialize advanced machinery of indeterminate origin, leading Maxis to surmise that the conversion of element 115 is somehow capable of creating a seize or tear in space-time. It is at this time Richtofen notices Maxis starts to show signs of paranoia and mental psychosis. The symptoms worsen as Maxis begins to hear the voice of Samantha, who claims not to only be his daughter, but also that she is trapped in a world known as Argatha, and needs his help to escape. Due to Samantha's constant interference with their work, Richtofen fears for his friend's, Max's, safety, and grows to despise Samantha. Meanwhile, the excavation in northern France unearths a sealed chamber within the ancient ruins. All attempts to open this chamber are unsuccessful, until purely by chance, one of the workers sets up a gramophone for entertainment. When the gramophone begins to play music, the chamber is still opened by a revealing cryptic on the walls. Maxis studies the writing and learns of an ancient race and their ability to create powerful devices, such as an amplification rod and elemental stones. According to the writing, the amplification rod is capable of harnessing energy from the elemental stones. The excavation group have now found neither the rod nor the stones, so Maxis instructs Richtofen to find the florectal rods or elemental staffs, while continuing to search for their original devices. When presenting the idea, Richtofen began to question Max's actions, believing the amplification rod could be a myth. Convinced of his insanity, he planned to report his mental instability to Group 935's leaders, while Samantha began to communicate more frequently with Maxis, now attempting to convince him of him being his future daughter. One night, as a team of soldiers were installing more generators, they reported seeing strange and ancient figures emerging from the mound and finding many of them dead or missing by morning. As more of the figures emerged, now revealed to be corpses reanimated by Element 115's powers, the test site slowly became infected by creatures, with Maxis himself slowly turning. Reports of the creatures provoked the United States to send Tank Dempsey to the test site to investigate the group's work, and acquire Dr. Richtofen as a HVT. Meanwhile, civil war-torn Russia did the same, believing the Germans had been gearing up to unleash a dangerous new weapon, and sent Nikolai Valensky to undertake the mission. The Emperor, wishing to seize the German weaponry from Japan, sends Takeo Masaki. As the three soldiers make their way to the site, Richtofen intends to preserve Max's mind and prevent him from stumbling to disease, and removes his brain. Eventually, the four heroes meet and agree to put aside their country's allegiances to band together and survive the zombie attack, and Group 935's mechanical robots, while being contacted by Samantha in the midst of the battle, begging to be released from Algartha. While Tank, Nikolai and Takeo agree to help Richtofen focus on creating a makeshift quarter drone, using Max's brain, only allowing him to live, temporarily using a human body could be provided. The four are able to open a teleporter to Algartha beneath the ruins, allowing Maxis to meet his future daughter and Samantha to be freed from controlling the zombies. Zombie outbreak was contained. Another alternate universe, where Samantha Maxis and a boy named Eddie, under the care of Samantha's father, Dr. Ludwig Maxis, is casually playing a game of zombies, as if fictionalizing all of the past events that occurred, making it seem like it was all just one big game. Samantha is seen narrating the end of the origin story, referring to the end of all her and the world's problems, making it seem like the zombie storyline was nothing more but a fictionalized story. A story created to scare children. Eddie argues that the zombie's eyes should be blue, and says that Samantha doesn't know how to play right. All of a sudden, sirens are heard in the background. Dr. Maxis tells them to lock the windows and go into the basement. Samantha tells Eddie that he can make the rules next time. Eddie hesitantly says, "I wish the heroes in our story were real, Sam." Then Samantha replies, "Don't worry, my father has a plan." Over the course of the next 2 years, in the origin timeline, Richtofen studies the concept of alternate timelines, and learns about the force of the ancient evil who controls the undead, and how Element 115 collects all the dimensions together. He takes a particular interest in the universe where the children, Samantha and Eddie, live in, and seeks to protect them. He also learns of the original timeline and the events that led up to it. He determines these events unfold as a result of the old Richtofen, Takeo, Dempsey and Nikolai, and decides to eliminate them from the original timeline. Richtofen discovers something called the Chronorium, granting him knowledge of an artifact called the Summoning Key, which resides in yet another dimension. The ultimate timeline where the Summoning Key exists is in the 1940s, is a fictional city of Morg City. Simultaneously, 4 individuals who have come to reside as I mentioned, Nero Blacksoe, Jessica Rose, Jack Vincent and Floyd Campbell, have defended the key from the Keepers while following the Shadow Man. Richtofen enters right after defeating a giant tentacle monster. He rushes in and takes the key, which the Keepers were giving to 4, and then rushes off. Now in possession of the artifact, Richtofen sets out to travel to the original timeline to kill the original Richtofen. In the original timeline, only moments after the original Richtofen trapped Maxis and Samantha inside the teleporter with Fluffy, Dempsey, Nikolai and Takeo from the Origins timeline attempt to stop Richtofen and join him in the original timeline. The three confront the World War II Richtofen, telling him that there is a chain of events that must be carried out, and prompt him to awaken this timeline's version of himself. As a zombie horde approach them from outside, the World War II Richtofen ignores the free warning and turns onto the teleporter, only to find the Origins timeline Richtofen was inside of it. The young Richtofen, who had just acquired the Summoning Key from Morg City, then shoots the original Richtofen in the head, killing him instantly, changing the future events of the original timeline and erasing all the events leading from Shino no Numa to Buried. While the group expresses disappointment in Richtofen for tampering with history, he defends his actions, believing that what he does is for a better tomorrow. The 4 characters band together within the Derice facility in order to survive the undead horde to progress through their mission. They light up a beacon within this facility, enabling the Origins timeline Maxis to know where they are and when they are. Over the course of the mission, the Origins characters' personalities begin to merge with their original counterparts. Dempsey becomes more aggressive and as well loud-mouthed. Nikolai becomes slightly less intelligent and is more obsessed with drinking. Takeo constantly speaks using Japanese proverbs, and Richtofen shows signs of schizophrenia. Using a giant robot at the Derice facility, the 4 characters then pursue a Group 935 Chuck carrying this chirostatic prod hope containing the original Dempsey. The robot, however, is shot down by a rocket, forcing the 4 to continue on foot. They reach a gondola station which takes them up to Griffin Castle, aka Eagle's Nest, where massively deposits of Element 115 have recently been discovered. However, the 4 were too late to stop the original Dempsey from being sent towards Griffin Station on a rocket. As they carry on with their mission, Richtofen then poses as the original self in an attempt to fool Dr. Groff, who becomes suspicious of Richtofen's abnormal behaviour. Eventually, the group redirects the rocket containing the original Dempsey's pod to hit the castle courtyard. However, Groff then activates a failsafe, protecting them from tampering with the pod. Richtofen then instructs them to activate MPD by temporarily displacing it from Griffin Station to the castle. After battling Keeper corrupted by Group 935, the 4 unleash a barrage of missiles toward the moon, destroying it all along with Group 935 members within Griffin Station. As they approach the original Dempsey's pod, Richtofen reveals his plan to eliminate their original counterparts and absorb their souls into the summoning key. Dempsey, though initially resentful of the idea, agrees to the plan and takes it upon himself to disable the pod's life support system and the life of the original Dempsey. With the original Dempsey dead, Richtofen uses the summoning key to capture and preserve the soul of the original Dempsey. With that done, his goal at Griffin Castle is completed. After the mission at Griffin Castle, the 4 then stow away on a Japanese boat in the Pacific Ocean before being found and captured. A Japanese officer interrogates them, and he holds the summoning key in his hand. Suddenly, a massive wave strikes the ship, sending everyone off their balance. A brief fight then ensues on the ship, as the officer drops the summoning key and is brutally stabbed to death by Takeo. Takeo manages to recover the summoning key before it falls overboard, but a fire on board the ship with the 4 to jump overboard as the ship explodes. The 4 eventually are forced to swim to a nearby island seen in the distance as the ship behind them sinks to the bottom of the Pacific Ocean. The island, which also houses a Division 9 facility, has been exposed to various Element 115 experiments, resulting in mutated animal and plant life of various kind. As they dive deeper into the facility, they discover a giant thrasher locked within a shell. After a long ensuing battle with the undead horde, the group destroy the thrasher, which reveals to be a mutated form of the original Takeo. The young Takeo is then shocked by the revelation to see that the Emperor who sent him here to be tortured and experimented on. He then resolves himself and offers the original Takeo a chance to redeem himself. The original Takeo then commits seppuku, which the young Takeo actually writes as Kashikukin. Having absorbed his soul into his summoning key, Richtofen then teleports the group somewhere else to complete a chant that will be set a chain of events into motion before returning back to the island. I hope you all enjoyed this sum up of the Call of Duty Zombies from the first map to the latest one, Zetsubu no Shima. If you did, like and subscribe for more content like this, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!